Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we're currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who, episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is the woman who doesn't stop telling me she's hungry. It's Charlotte. Hello.
Your most accurate one yet.
You're not even offended by that one.
Hungry. This is true.
Yeah.
You can't argue.
Are you tired
with
this
that.
week as well?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's okay though, because I had a chocolate croissant before we recorded, so there shouldn't be any belly rumbles.
No, but you're going to get some, repeating puff pastry or something. Do you want to tell everyone at home what you've been doing all day and what might come into play during this recording? You literally told me before we got here.
Working?
Charles got hiccups today.
Oh, yeah.
Also, apparently, the memory of a goldfish.
I've done a lot of things in my day. Hiccuping isn't the main thing.
Yeah, but that's what's going to come up here, isn't it? That's what's going to make this an interesting experience. So, if it becomes a nightmare, I may have to do some editing around it. At the same time, I might not be asked, and I might just leave it in.
Yeah.
So I guess listening to this, you're going to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I should be all right, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, today, Charlotte, we are covering Series 2, Episode 7. It's called The Idiot's Lantern, written by Mr. Mark Gatiss, last seen on the pod when we covered The Unquiet Dead back in Series 1. And this episode aired on May 27th, 2006. How do you feel about this one?
It's very meh.
Yeah?
Yeah. Question.
Yeah.
Why is it called the Idiot's Lantern?
I believe this was a term that Mark Gatiss heard someone else say in reference to a television.
I thought that might be the case.
Yes. I quite like it.
Yeah.
As a description for a TV.
Lantern, a TV.
I quite like it. The only kind of pre-ramble note I have for this is that Mark Gatiss has gone on record to say that this story was originally written for the Ninth Doctor.
Oh.
So I don't know whether rewrites were done to make this
fit a bit more.
Fit for the 10th Doctor, or whether the script is the same and no changes were made. I probably should have gone into this with that in mind and thought, can I imagine Eccleston delivering these lines?
I can find there's one line which we'll cover later on that I definitely can imagine Eccleston saying.
Okay.
So much so I can imagine it more
than this. Even though you've seen this.
Yes. I feel like it would feel more fitting for him.
Yeah.
Than 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you want to get straight into it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. So the episode begins. It's a dark and stormy night, and we are witness to Mr. Magpie, the owner of Magpie Electricals. He sat in his shop, and he verbally tells us, the audience, that he's £200 overdrawn. So he's not doing well financially. His business is going under. I just want to say immediately, you notice it off the get-go. But it's immediately apparent here. Nearly every single shot in this episode is shot on a Dutch angle. And
you did mention that whilst we were watching it.
Yeah, because when I said it when we were watching it, it's because it was the most Dutch of all angles.
Yeah.
It was basically sideways. It was it's crazy. But literally every shot, or nearly every shot in this episode, is shot on a Dutch angle. I'm sure everyone does know what that means, but if you're not, a Dutch angle is when the camera's kind of canted at a slight angle, so instead of everything being straight and symmetrical, it's almost as if you pivot the camera a couple degrees just to make everything kind of slanted. It often creates a feeling of discomfort, or the feeling that something's a bit off.
Do you know why it's called a Dutch angle?
I would assume it.
And don't say it's because the Dutch do it.
Well, I assume it's something like that.
Yeah.
I assume either someone Dutch pioneered the technique.
I assume so.
Or it was made popular by Dutch filmmakers. I assume it's something like that. But yeah, you kind of notice that immediately here. That first shot of the shop is canted to an angle.
Yeah.
And it's more obvious on the close-ups, I think. But yeah. Anyway, in a nearby household, we see the Connolly family. Tommy, the son, he's reading a radio magazine while his mother Rita is sewing and his gran is kind of sat in an armchair just listening to the radio. We see the father, Eddie. He's getting ready to head out. And Tommy asks about buying a TV because like everyone else in the street has got one. Initially, he's like, Eddie's like, no, we're not getting a TV. We don't need one. But when he says that, when Tommy says that everyone else has got one, he seems a bit more like, or maybe.
I mean, it shows up a lot in the episode, but it's very. I mean, even in this scene, Eddie's going out to the pub.
Yeah.
And he has his blazer on with all his war medals.
Yes.
And I guess it represents him being very focused on people's opinion of him. I know it comes up later on again.
Yeah.
But I guess he's kind of, he wants to be seen as a war hero. He doesn't want to be seen as, the only house in the street that couldn't afford a TV or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think in this cold open, like if you watch this for the first time, you could argue maybe it's designed to trick you into a false sense of security where you think, oh, he doesn't want his son to be the only kid on the street without a TV. Where, in reality, from what we learn later on, it's more of a selfish thing of, oh, I can't be the only guy who doesn't have this thing. Yeah, because he's like, say, he says to Tommy, like, how many times have I got to tell you that, we're not doing this? But then as soon as you get to the TV, he's showing it off more than anyone else.
Yeah. I like Grandma's input on the TV.
Yeah, go on.
TV rots your brain into soup.
True. It's a weird stance for a TV show to take, isn't it?
Does it rot your brain into soup?
Yeah, more or less. Brain rot. The OG brain rot.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So yeah, Eddie says he'll consider buying one for the coronation that's upcoming. He tells Rita not to wait up. Yeah, Granny doesn't like the idea of the TV.
No.
Yeah. So then we cut back to Magpie's shop and we see this kind of like red bolt of lightning fire down from the sky and hit the antenna. And then one of the TVs on the sort of shop wall behind Magpie turns on, and the announcer that was on it earlier is now on the screen and starts talking to Mr. Magpie. He thinks he's going nuts. He thinks he's going a bit doolally, but she's like, Mr. Magpie. Let's say he says, oh, I must be going around the twist or something, and she says, not at all, sweetheart. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good, then we'll begin. And that was kind of what I know this is The Wire at this point, but that's what the announcer said, like to actually like close off the show. So that's interesting. But then an energy beam kind of jumps out of the screen and covers Mr. Magpie's face, and he starts screaming, and she laughs. Ha 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 ha. Titles.
I struggle because we'll call it brain rot.
Okay.
On my behalf. So watching this after filters through like Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. Yeah. The weird horse filter that makes your face into like elongated.
Really long, yeah.
It kind of looks like that.
Oh no.
It's kind of like long, like pulled out face.
Makes you look kind of ratty.
Yeah. And I was just looking at it and I was just like, oh
no, I don't like that.
It's strange because it's not just, it's like she's pulling your face.
Yeah.
Or your features off of your head.
Yeah. I want to know logistically how this works because like, so she like, I don't know what the wire is feeding off of because they're not like brain dead. Because we see them later and they basically end up as people with no faces. But they're not brain dead because they can stand up. Do you know what I mean? They're like moving about. But yeah, they have no faces. So it's like, I don't really know what it is she's consuming.
No.
And I don't know what that means for the... Because we see later on, like, their consciousness is a kind of like... Trapped in the TV.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but if they're trapped somewhere else, then it's not within her. So I don't know how she's feeding. I don't know how this works.
Well...
Now, I know the appeal of a lot of stuff, particularly when it's trying to be scary, is to not know how it works, but I don't think that's the tone this is going for. So I don't know. It just feels like an idea the Margators thought would be kind of creepy and didn't really think to expand on it anymore.
Yeah, didn't know where to go with it. Just like, the TV just, you're glued to the screen, but actually,
Yeah. That's me. The whole like theming of this episode seems to be like people who watch too much TV is bad.
Yeah.
But that's a weird stance for a TV show to take.
Well, it's not even that, is it? Because it's not like these people watch too much TV. Maybe it's to fear technology. Actually, I do note that later on. But yeah, we'll get there because I can't find it in my notes.
That's fine. Okay. But yeah, that's our cold open. We get our titles. And then when we come back into the episode, the Doctor and Rose land in London, 1953. That's not what they were aiming for. They were aiming for New York. They're very much dressed for the period. I say they. The Doctor's just wearing his brown suit. He's just quiffed his hair.
I can't take the Doctor serious this whole episode because of that freaking quiffed hair.
Yeah, he's got his hair quiffed up. It's not even quiffed up. It's like slicked back.
Yeah, but back combed.
Yeah, back combed, revealing his widow's peak. Rose comes out with like a pink skirt and like a denim jacket.
Yeah. And she's got a beehive.
Yeah, so basically they were intending to go to New York to see Elvis's performance on the Ed Sullivan Show. But obviously they, in typical Doctor Who fashion, aim for New York, end up in London. And by London, I mean Cardiff. Yeah, Rose tries to speak the lingo. Right away, daddy-o.
Oh, God, I honestly...
Yeah, Doctor goes, you're coming my way, doll.
I literally wanted to throw myself out the window at that point, but
yeah, because the Doctor
I hated it.
The Doctor says, ooh, you speak the lingo, and she says her mother was a Cliff fan. Yeah, apparently they'd rent movies every bank holiday. So, yeah, the Doctor doesn't seem surprised.
No.
Yeah, so they leave the TARDIS on a scooter, and I was immediately stressed out thinking he didn't lock the TARDIS. I assume the TARDIS being like a sentient thing just locks itself.
Yeah,
I don't
self-locking.
know. But I'm like...
Yeah, do we ever see him lock the TARDIS?
Well, Eccleston used to do it. Eccleston always locked the TARDIS with the key when he left.
Is it like... I can't remember but like a latch door where it automatically...
Well,
shuts.
The Ninth Doctor's just got OCD and he has to keep checking it.
But no, it's a latch door. It automatically shuts, but then to like deadbolt it, you have to then turn the key as well.
Oh, I see. Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's like
later on in 10 series, he upgrades to the old like beep beep, the little sports car thing. Yeah, but yeah, they immediately realise that different skyline. There's a double decker bus passes by. There's Union Jacks everywhere. They're in London, northern London, on the eve of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. Meanwhile, the Connolly house finally have their new TV.
They do.
Yeah, like I say, Eddie's showing it off.
He is.
He's saying like, I can't remember who they got in the house, but someone's like, "Oh, look at that picture."
It's like an great aunt, or no? Oh, she's in.
Some woman.
Yeah, some
woman.
She's
like, it's so clear. You think they was in the room with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's like a great aunt, and then, he says to his wife, "Oh, don't know why you got dolled up. They can't see you."
Yeah,
and she's like
making fun of his wife the whole time. Yeah. So yeah, Tommy and Rita are quite quiet.
Look quite sad.
Yeah, because Gran is absent. Rita tries to mention that her face has changed. Eddie gets kind of angry about it, and he's like, "I told you to stop talking about it." And then they hear banging upstairs, and Rita says that Gran is awake. She's probably hungry. Meanwhile, outside, the Doctor and Rose bump into Mr. Magpie, who's delivering a TV set out the back of his van to a nearby house. This was when I actually just made a note. My note just says Magpie Electricals. But this was to remind me to go on this tangent about Magpie Electricals and how it's obviously... this episode is not really noteworthy of anything. There's no, but you know what I mean. There's no major character development in it. Nothing super eventful for the series happens. It doesn't set anything up. Nothing pays off here. It's just kind of just one of the episodes. So it's really weird that Magpie Electricals became this reoccurring thing throughout the series. And I just made a quick note of ones that I remembered off the top of my head, which were Martha's TV and The Sound of Drums is a Magpie Electricals TV. The microphone that the lounge singer is using in Voyage of the Damned is Magpie Electricals. In Lie of the Land, there's a Magpie Electricals shop. In The Beast Below, Matt Smith's second episode, when they're on Starship UK on the Star Whale, there's a big sign on there that says Magpie Electricals. The 12th Doctor's amplifier for his guitar has Magpie Electricals on it.
The question is who we obviously learn, again, spoilers but not spoilers, that Magpie doesn't make it out alive.
Yes.
Who takes over the business?
Assume a son or something.
I love the idea of the Doctor.
But this is interesting because, I like the idea that, like, this little shop in North London lasts so far into the future when they're on, like, Starship UK and stuff. Where it gets weird is when you look at the classic Who stuff, where, the whole thing how some episodes are missing and they've had to do, like, animations to reconstruct the episodes, and they've put references to it in some of those.
That is cool. I like that.
But it does make it a bit weird. So it's like in The Power of the Daleks, there's a TV in Hensel's office, and that's got Magpie Electricals on it. In the animated reconstruction of the faceless ones, there's a sign in Gatwick Airport with Magpie Electricals on it. Do you know what I mean? And those were set in, like, at least from what I remember, set like in contemporary times.
Yeah.
I was saying that this episode's set in the 40s. Never mind. Yeah. But yeah, so those episodes will be set in like the 60s. So yeah, even in like the animated reconstructed stuff, it's kind of still there, which I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Rose is kind of surprised at this point to see that pretty much every house in the street has a TV aerial. They're shaped a bit funny, and they sure.
Why are they shaped like that?
Right.
I'm just going to say, for a country who have just come out of war with a party who used that same shape, you'd think they'd notice pretty quickly.
Yeah. Just to spell it out for anyone who's maybe not quite sure what we're talking about, the TV antennas are kind of shaped in a way that make them look like swastikas. They're just kind of all...
Not in a way. They are. They are.
Or maybe technically not, because they're not... Isn't the swastika, like, on its side?
I think so, yeah.
I'll say that, though. There's no way this is intentional, but maybe it's like they're not... They're straight. They're not at an angle like the swastika actually is, but because the whole episode's filmed on a Dutch angle...
Oh, no.
I like the thought that maybe they accidentally made it that way.
No.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a strange choice.
But yeah, Rose thinks it's weird that like nearly everyone's got one, because her grandmother used to say that TVs were so rare that everyone used to pile into a single house to watch things like the coronation and stuff. But yeah, at this point they witness that a person covered in a blanket is being shoved into a car by a couple of men in black, if you like. They say they're on police business. Tommy also sees the abduction, and he runs out the house. He kind of recognises the kidnappee as his neighbour, Mr. Gallagher. And obviously the Doctor and Rose are like, what's going on here? And Tommy says that people in the area are turning into monsters. At this point, Eddie, Mr. Connolly, shows up and, well, how would you describe it? Just orders him back inside.
Yeah.
But in a very, I don't know.
Degrading.
Yeah, he doesn't have much respect for his son, does he?
No.
Yeah. But obviously, so this guy's just been kidnapped, shoved into the back of a car and taken away. So the Doctor and Rose immediately enter hero mode. And
this is so silly. Them chasing that car.
So they
on
hop
a moped.
they hop on the back of the scooter and they start chasing it. Yeah. They chase around a bunch of corners, and then the car kind of passes through a gate, which once the car makes it through, they like slam the gate shut, and then a couple guys move like a market stall in front of it to make it look like a dead end. So when Rose and the Doctor kind of come around the corner, it just looks like the car's just disappeared.
Yeah.
The Doctor says, this is Churchill's England, not Stalin's Russia. Yeah, Rose remembers that Tommy said something about monsters, and she suggests they look around the neighbourhood. He says, that's what I like about you.
Domestic
the domestic approach.
She's like, what's that supposed to mean?
Well, yeah, she goes, thank you. And then she puts the helmet on. She goes, wait, was that a compliment? Yeah. Meanwhile, Mr. Magpie has returned to his shop and he's talking to the wire.
This is where I've made my note about they're on about the television. Because obviously, last time we saw Mr. Magpie,
Yeah.
he was having his face sucked into a TV.
He was handing the TV.
Oh,
out,
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. In the cold open, yes.
Yeah. And obviously we're all a bit confused of why, or well, you assume that he's working with her at this point because they're talking to each other. But she says something which I thought, that's still quite relevant.
What?
She says that because he says about what's the plan with the TVs, and
yeah, because he's making like a little portable TV set. Yeah, where she's giving him instructions, and he's building it.
Yeah. And she says that they're forging ahead into a brand new age that you can't go back. And I think that's still quite relevant today, don't you think?
Well, in terms of the fact that like no one can imagine life without television anymore.
Well, I'm on about like how we're again forging into a new age. You could argue with technology into something that we can't return from.
In what way?
Like once we use it for so many things, like to not have it anymore or to remove it would be very hard or very difficult to do.
Yeah, like I understand that in principle, but like, what are you referencing?
I have no idea what you're...
I understand the principle of what you're trying to say.
Yes.
about the concept of, entering an age and there's no return, but you said you feel like that's relevant today.
I said AI.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yes,
right, yeah.
AI.
I'd love to go back from AI.
Well, you can't. The Wire's told you that's not the case.
The Wire is AI.
The Wire is AI.
No, so Mr. Magpie's like begging the Wire to leave him alone. He says that basically her very presence makes his eyes and his memories hurt. She just kind of scoffs at him. She says it's like you said, it's too late to turn back. The time is almost ripe. Cometh the hour, cometh the man or lady. It's nighttime now. And Rose and the Doctor are still kind of investigating the abduction. And they knock on the Connolly house. They're posing as royal inspectors, whatever that means. What does that mean? Is that a thing?
No, of course not. A royal inspector.
Well, Mr. Connolly takes to it very quickly. Because the Doctor uses his psychic paper. So Eddie's like, oh, right, okay. So the Doctor and Rose kind of push their way into the house. And they quickly kind of establish the dynamic here that Eddie's kind of bullied his family into ignoring the fact that Gran is upstairs without a face. So the Doctor and Rose basically try their very best to embarrass him, really. So it's like, obviously, because they're like royal inspectors, allegedly, Mr. Connolly tells Rita to put up the banners with the flags. And the Doctor goes on this tirade of like...
You've got hands.
Yeah, you've got hands.
And he said, it's a woman's work.
Yeah.
And then she said, the Queen's a woman. Would you say she'd do her own housework? And he's like, oh, no.
No, of course not. Yeah, and then he starts hanging the banner up, and then Rose has a go at him because he calls it the Union Jack. And she says that it's only the Union Jack when it's flown at sea. It's the Union flag. And then she shouts at him. She says, now get to it. Yeah. And then they kind of reach a point, don't they? Because the Doctor's asking Rita and Tommy, like, what's going on? And Eddie's, like, chipping in every now and then going, no, don't bother the man. He doesn't want to hear all that. And after a while, Eddie's like, wait a minute, what am I doing?
I know, it makes me laugh so much. He's just hanging some bunting and he's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, he's
like, this is my house.
Yeah, he just throws it onto the table.
Like, just hanging some bunting, mate. Chill.
He starts having a go at the Doctor. I can't remember what he says, but the Doctor says something back, and then Eddie goes, I am talking, which is kind of a weird, like, thing that he just keeps saying.
He'd said it previously before they'd entered the house.
I know, but that's what I mean. He keeps saying it, but he doesn't often actually get interrupted. He just seems to say it to shut people up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But he goes, I am talking. And the Doctor just stands up and gets his teeth out and goes, and I'm not listening.
And he's like, oh.
Yeah, and he seems scared. And then they hear that banging noise upstairs again. So the Doctor convinces Rita and Tommy to take him up to Gran's room. And this is pretty much the first time we get our reveal when they open the door and when we see our first person with no face. And what do you think about the effect? it's like, I don't know. I think
it's a cool effect.
I think later on, not to jump too far ahead, but you know, when we get to the bit with the cage, and there's quite a few of them, I think it's quite good in those long shots. I think in this kind of reveal, I think the CGI is a bit like...
It's a bit fuzzy, but then you're like...
It's not the worst thing at all, especially when you consider when it came out and the budget and whatever, but it's not like... It's not an effect where I go, yeah, that holds up, that looks great. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit ropey, but it's okay.
I guess you could argue even though it's a bit fuzzy and a bit like CG, you could make an argument of like, well, television, do you know what I mean? It's been...
It's a bit naff on purpose.
Well, but like, you know, kind of like the face has been taken off through something... Unnatural through television and
something
kind of
artificial.
What's there is kind of...
It's
like
it's
a
uncanny
TV,
valley by intention. Yeah.
Maybe.
Sure. Yeah. But anyway,
we'll go with that.
Yeah. So the doctor's examining Gran, and I think the doctor says she's in a state of complete neural shutdown. And at this point, two men burst through the door. One of them sucker punches the doctor in the face.
Well, no, he smacks him.
Does he? I thought it was a
think.
punch.
Actually, it might have been.
Because the doctor says he's got a right hook.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, I have a couple of reasons why you should listen to me, and then he just smacks him.
Yeah. I got a couple of very good reasons you need to listen to me. Number one, whack.
And he's just like, he gets up and he's like, oh, hello, right hook.
Yeah. The men knock the doctor out and they take Gran away. The doctor runs down. He's like calling Rose, going, come on. And Rose gets distracted by the TV set because she can see like the red kind of sparks going on behind it. The doctor can't afford to wait anymore, so he drives off on the scooter to chase the men in the car. Rose, like I say, is too preoccupied with the TV.
Yeah.
And she looks at the back, and that's when she sees the Magpie logo on the back. And eventually Mr. Connolly comes back and orders her out of the house.
This little bit here makes me laugh. Because only idiots hang the flag upside down. And she, shame on you. And then she looks at him, and then she does a weird little... Like a little grin, like an unhinged smirk or a grin.
Yeah, you think this woman is,
and then she just runs out.
This woman kills. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but yeah, the doctor's chasing the men in black, as we'll call them, and they do the same thing they did last time to cover their escape with the makeshift kind of, I don't know, table.
Yeah.
The doctor actually sees it happen this time, though. He seems impressed.
He's like, oh, clever.
You're very good. Very good. So he leaves the scooter and he goes on foot to try and break into the warehouse.
Yeah.
This is where I mentioned that the Dutch angle was
yes.
Dutch.
He's in an alley and it's just like...
Yeah, it's basically at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
He breaks into the warehouse and he eventually comes across that cage I was talking about with... It's like full of people who've had their faces taken. And they're all locked up. He goes in, he lets himself into the cage and he's trying to have like a closer look, and they all start to like surround him. He doesn't actually seem that scared.
No.
I mean, I guess what are they going to do? Can't eat him.
I'm sure they could probably do some damage.
Yeah. But yeah, they like I say, they start to surround him, but then a light turns on and shines into the cage, and the men in black have obviously caught him. Meanwhile, Rose goes on her own to Mr. Magpie's shop.
This is something where I think with Rose, and I know you've said it, but when like in future series,
yeah.
Where it frustrates you when the companion kind of tries to take the role of the doctor a little bit.
Yeah.
Rose does this here and it just completely backfires. She doesn't tell the doctor where she's going. She goes on her own in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, it is... Yeah, I understand the complaint. The only thing I will say is in the past when I've talked about companions who try to be the doctor, I don't think this is like that. Because I don't see Rose as trying to be like the doctor. I see this as Rose's natural...
curiosity, maybe?
Yeah, curiosity and desire to do good and, inquisitiveness. And I feel like whether the doctor was there or not, she would be doing this because she is investigating.
That's true.
Where when I think of like Clara in like Flatline or in Dark Water, do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is clearly a character who's got a bit of a power complex and wants to be seen as an equal to the Doctor.
I agree in Flatline because she literally has to pretend she's the Doctor and she's kind of hamming it up a bit.
Yeah, but I feel like the impression I get is with Clara, she wants to feel like she's an equal to the Doctor, where I don't think Rose ever feels like she will be an equal to the Doctor. But this is just her natural intrigue. Yeah. Anyway, Rose, like I say, she goes to Magpie's shop and she tries to ask him about buying a new TV. He says, shop's closed. He tries to get her to leave. She basically says, yeah, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's going on around here. She asks him why he's selling the TV so cheap. And he says, like, it's my patriotic duty. Everyone's got to watch the coronation, and she's not really buying it.
Fair.
So, yeah, he eventually he locks the door. And she's immediately like, uh-oh. She's like, oh, just us two, is it? Okay. But then the wire appears on one of the TVs in the background.
Hungry!
Yeah. Hungry! It doesn't even try to... Like, so I thought, if I was to make like a bingo card, I'd assume there'd be a moment where the wire's talking to Rose and Rose thinks this is like a TV channel or something.
She does.
I don't think she does, because she immediately just goes like, oh my God, you're talking to me.
Well, she says, she looks at the TV's on, and she hears it say something. And then
because Magpie says something like, it's one of these modern programs. Or something. Yeah, but I don't know. I thought it'd be more of a bit.
I guess.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the wire more or less just reveals itself to Rose straight away. It just starts sucking her face off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or sucking her brainwaves, I guess. I guess that's what it's doing into the TV, yeah. And Mr. Magpie says he's sorry and he can't even bring himself to look.
No.
He's like, oh, I just want this to be over. My eyes hurt. Yeah. So now we cut back to the Doctor, and he's with the Men in Black, the leader of which he identifies himself. Technically, the Doctor identifies him as Detective Inspector Bishop.
I really like this. Well, he starts off with saying about I can't remember what he asks him.
He says, tell me everything you know. And the Doctor says, I know you can't put your hand around your elbow and make your fingers meet.
And I just love the guy in the background. He just, as they continue talking, you could just see him like slowly put his hand around his arm and like try and get him to meet. It's like when you tell people like they can't lick their elbow and you just see people like slowly just bring their elbow up to their mouth.
Yeah. So he's like, don't get funny with me. And let's say the Doctor kind of addresses him by name. Yeah. And he's like, how do you know my name? He's like, it's on the inside of the collar of your shirt. Bless you, Mum. which I've put quite sad, because he just assumed that it was his mum. He's like, oh, your mum writes your name in your shirt. What about his wife might do that? He might do that. Yeah. No.
I doubt he's doing it himself.
Definitely his mum.
Yeah.
He made an educated guess.
He acted him.
Yeah.
Mama's boy.
But yeah, the Doctor starts asking him questions that he can't seem to answer. So he offers his assistance in solving the mystery, which we find out began about a month ago. And the inspectors are kind of like overwhelmed. They don't really know what to do. The Doctor's like, oh, you're just putting them all in a cage. He's like, what else can we do? We can't feed them. They got no mouths.
Yeah.
So they kind of reach a truce, and they're kind of like looking around, like going over the evidence, and Inspector Bishop says like this is where all the people have been found.
Yeah.
And the Doctor notices that quite a lot of them around Florizel Street, which is where the Connollys live, and obviously also where Magpie's shop is. At this point, Bishop's friend, your boy, Mr. Crabtree, he brings in another victim, and it's Rose.
Yeah. I'd just like to point out something which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So when they're interrogating the doctor, there's like a visual, but like also a power dynamic shift.
Yes.
But they also do it like as a visual as well. As it starts in, the doctor's sitting down, and what's his name? The guy,
Inspector Bishop.
Bishop's standing, towering over the doctor, asking him questions.
Yeah.
And then they go into like the details of like how long it's been going on for, and they can't solve this. And he said, we don't even know where to start. This is nothing we've ever seen. And as he's saying this, he sits down.
Sits back down, yeah.
And then towards the end, he ends up asking the doctor for help, and the doctor then stands up and towers over him.
Yeah.
And that was quite cool. I like that. To have been this.
Good directing. I think this was this Euros Lynn? I think he might have directed this. Not sure. Yeah, it was good.
But yeah, I thought that was, I mean, obviously.
It's good blocking.
Yeah.
Good staging. Yeah. But yeah, the doctor sees Rose, faceless.
This is the line that is very Eccleston.
Oh, yeah.
Very.
Because he says, I can't remember it word for word, but he basically says, like, this is okay because this makes it very, very clear, very plain. He says something like, they've taken my friend and now there's nothing on this earth that can stop me.
Yeah, that is so Eccleston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Eccleston delivering the wrapping your hands around your elbow and making your fingers meet?
Yes. Yes, I can. I think this, I can.
Can you imagine Eccleston doing that? You coming my way, doll?
Yes. Very.
Can you? I can't.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, we jump ahead a little bit, and it's now the day of the coronation. The doctor and Inspector Bishop go to Florizel Street, and they're back asking Tommy what happened to his gran the night her face was stolen. He says that she was watching the TV, which was pretty affordable thanks to Mr. Magpie's generous prices. And at this point, they're interrupted yet again by Mr. Eddie Connolly. But this time's a bit different. He's kind of taken aback because Tommy stands up to him.
Yeah.
Finally. He says that basically he's been the one ratting on his friends and neighbours, including their gran, about the facelessness to the authorities and having them taken away. He says basically he calls him a coward. And Eddie's like, how dare you, little twerp, call me a coward? I fought in the war. And Tommy's got a pretty good point.
He does Uno reverse.
He does Uno reverse, yeah. He says, you don't get it, do you? You fought in the war, so twerps like me could do and say what we want.
And he's like, oh.
And he doesn't really have much of a response to that.
And as this is happening, Rita, his wife, overhears the conversation to hear that her husband literally got her mother taken away.
Yeah, Eddie says like, oh, she was disgusting. She was a thing. She was a filthy, whatever he says.
Yeah,
and she just goes,
thing.
That's my mother.
It's like, oh.
And Eddie's just like, oh. Yeah. And then she tells Tommy to go with the doctor, and she tells Eddie to piss off, basically.
Yeah.
And just closes the door in his face. And goes back inside.
Sits down, and she's like, and they were like, what's that? She was like, the end of something, finally.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God.
How's everyone doing for drinks? Yeah. So now the three boys go to Magpie's shop, and they just kick the door down, really, don't they?
Yeah, Doctor breaks in, literally punches the glass, and then opens the door.
Yeah, and Magpie doesn't look like he's in. The doctor's like ringing the bell on the counter, going ding, 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 ding. He's going, Magpie! He's like, no one's home. So he has a quick look around and he finds the little handheld kind of portable TV thing, which he says is technology that shouldn't exist yet. He's correct. He also sees all like the TVs in the shop, and they're holding the people's faces, including Tommy's grandmother.
Are the TVs holding the faces? Because he scans the what's it called, the portable device with the Sonic, and then he says, "Oh, there's something here," and then it's like he directs the Sonic towards the TVs, and then the TVs come on.
Yeah.
So the face is in the TVs, or the face is in the portable device, which the doctor has then put on the TVs.
I assume they were just in the TVs.
I guess.
Well, I guess if I'm being like, if I imagine this written as like prose, as like a novel, I would assume that they're not technically in the TVs. That I don't know, maybe the brain waves are floating in the air or something, and this is like just a way of visualizing that transmission.
Yeah, I guess.
I doubt they're actually connected to the circuit board of the TV.
Yeah.
But again, none of this makes it's all a bit of flim flam in it.
It is a lot of flim flam. This.
Yeah. The doctor sees Rose's face. Everyone's like, you can see their lips moving, and everyone looks like they're saying "help me," except for Rose, who's clearly saying "doctor." The doctor promises that he's going to save her. At this point, Magpie shows up, walking in from one of the back rooms. Don't know how he didn't hear all that stuff going on. The doctor demands to know who's really in charge. He says this is all a bit beyond you. And at this point, the Wire shows up on the TV behind. She seems kind of impressed by the doctor's
this
intelligence.
One is smart as paint.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I'm assuming it's like saying, like, smarten something up, maybe?
I don't know, isn't paint quite thick?
No, as in, I don't mean like the viscosity of paint.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, paint is quite thick, isn't it? So you'd think, like, if I said you're as thick as paint, like, that seems like it tracks more than
smart as
paint.
I was thinking, she was thinking, like, giving something a new lick of paint to make it to be smart.
Maybe.
But I don't know.
Is this a turn of phrase? Is this something that was said that people don't say anymore because it's dumb? Or is this an original Mark Gatiss
smart as paint
insult, you reckon? I don't know.
Who knows?
So the Wire is kind of talking, and she's been in like black and white this whole time. I say black and white. It's got a weird like blue tint. But she kind of turns into colour briefly. Yeah,
which I quite like that. It's quite cool.
Yeah, it's a cool effect. And it reminds me of like when Hades goes like red flame.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bishop says like, "Oh my god, colour television." So the Wire tells the Doctor that it was executed by its own people, but it fled to Earth, where there's enough kind of mental energy for it to recreate its physical form. But the Doctor says it's been taken more than it should, gorging itself like a great overfed pig. He really hits that plosive on the pig. Bishop calls out for Magpie. He says like, "Oh, and you let her do it, Magpie." He really takes this on board really easily, doesn't he?
He does.
But Magpie says, he had no choice. The Wire let him keep his face and promised to free him, give him peace at the time of manifestation, which the Wire calls her crowning glory. So at this point, Bishop kind of realizes that it's referring to the coronation. The Doctor says, obviously, the coronation will be the first time in history that millions of people gather around a TV set, which kind of gives the Wire the perfect opportunity to feast on them all. He says that she's not strong enough yet, though, and he kind of works out that that's why it needs the portable TV.
Yeah.
It's more powerful and can turn a transmitter into a receiver. Sure, if you want.
Yeah, I guess.
As far as Doctor Who flim flam technobabble goes, sure.
We'll get on to that later, but
the Wire kind of like is a bit sarcastic to the Doctor and says, "You can all relax and enjoy the coronation. Believe me, you'll be glued to the screen." And she tries to eat all their faces.
Yeah.
She starts like sucking all three at the same time. That's what he said. Anyway, she's going, "Oh, this one's tasty. I'll have lashings of him."
No.
Yeah, you like that one, don't you?
No.
What's wrong, Chuck?
What I like is the next part. So they're all being
sucked.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Magpie decides, obviously, he's going to have to try and complete his task.
Yes.
So he runs out of the house or out of the shop with the portable TV.
Yes.
And jumps into his car. And at that point, we get Magpie Cam. Just the little like dashboard cam.
I know what you mean though, because I was thinking the whole time, because I said to you, it might have been before we started watching this, but I happened to mention to you just in passing that Planet of the Dead was the first episode filmed in HD. So obviously all this stuff prior is technically standard def that's been upscaled when you watch it on like iPlayer or on Blu-ray or whatever. And for the most part, it looks good in terms of the film stock that's been upscaled to 1080p or whatever. And then when you cut to Magpie Cam,
Oh, it's rough.
yes,
And you could obviously the lens is different.
yeah.
So it's kind of like
It's as if
so
you're like
funny.
imagine like filming an entire movie on like an iPhone 16 Pro Max or whatever with like raw format, 4K HDR on and everything, and then every now and then you just cut in with like GoPro footage. It's like it,
but not even GoPro, like knockoff GoPro.
yeah, like Temu GoPro footage. The jumping qualities are very
love
odd.
that. Honestly, it made me chuckle so much just seeing his little face, and then he's like steering quickly to go around the corners, and it's like
I just love the fact that you've called it Magpie Cam.
it's Magpie Cam.
We need an edit. That's exactly the same episode, but every time it cuts to that shot, it says Magpie Cam in the corner. It's like a Sidemen video. It's just like Magpie Cam.
Magpie Cam.
Yeah. But yeah, during this point, the three boys are still getting sucked off.
And she's going, feed me.
Yeah, who's she talking to? She's already eating.
I don't know.
So the doctor pulls the Sonic out of his pocket. This all sounds very innuendo, doesn't it? She's sucking them off, so the doctor pulls out his Sonic.
You're gonna get us demonetized, mate.
We're not monetized.
Okay, you're gonna get us de-age rated then.
De-age rated.
I don't freaking know.
So we're gonna get the age rating taken off.
I don't know. We're gonna basically you're not gonna be able to tick that little box.
You're gonna get us in trouble.
You're gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah. I don't know. Wait for the Love and Monsters episode. So the Wire sees the Sonic and obviously recognizes the Doctor, or at least the Sonic, as like a higher form of technology. She says he's armed and clever, and she backs off. I don't know why she does. She could just carry on, but she backs off.
Well, isn't he like?
He doesn't do anything. She just gets scared.
Because he has the Sonic in his hand.
Yeah.
So I was assuming he was kind of like.
I don't think he pressed it. I think he just pulled it out. I think he just pulled it out, and she saw it, and just because she goes like withdraw, and she like just stops.
Maybe she assumed that he was going to, I don't know, kill her somehow. I don't know.
But Tommy and the Doctor seem okay, but it's a bit late for Bishop. He's on the floor with no face.
Oh no.
The two are kind of unconscious for a bit as the Wire. Like just before the bit you mentioned where Magpie leaves, the Wire kind of jumps into the portable TV.
Yeah.
And she orders Magpie to take her to Alexandra Palace, where like the broadcasting tower is. So they do. Then Tommy and the Doctor wake up, like a couple of minutes later, and the Doctor's immediately like grabbing parts because he wants to build a device with little bits and pieces from the shop. Before he heads off to the TARDIS for one more part. Then they go to the Palace's broadcast centre themselves. They run past the security guard, and the Doctor like the guard is like, "What are you doing here?" The Doctor holds up the psychic paper, and he's like, "Oh, shouldn't you be at the coronation, Your Majesty?" And he looks at the psychic paper, and he's like, "Ooh, you think I'm the King of Belgium?"
Why?
I have no idea.
Why? So that's what I don't understand about the psychic paper. Like, sometimes I think it's used quite cleverly. So it's, an inspector or a police officer where it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why does this man not know who the King of Belgium looks like? I mean, to be fair, I don't.
I was going to say neither do I. I can't imagine it's David Tennant.
Do
though.
Belgium have a king anymore? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe
Would they have
don't.
in the 40s? I don't know. I assume so.
I don't know. But
thing is, the Doctor ran past and waved it up so quick.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no way you would have had a chance to read it. Do you know what I mean? So, like, did he just know what the ID for the King of Belgium looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, by the way, the Doctor tells Tommy to keep the device that he's plugged into the broadcasting system working no matter what. He said no matter who comes in and tries to turn it off, make sure that stays on. He grabs a spool of wire and he runs to the roof, kind of like leading this trail of wire out after him. And he starts to climb the big tower, the big mast. Magpie's already at the top.
Mm.
He's
like, oh,
he's connected the wire to the mast, yeah. And he's like, I've done what you wanted. Please stop the pain. You promised me peace. And the wire says, and peace you shall have. And
shoomp.
Yeah, it fires like a bolt of like electricity at him and just disintegrates him. Mm-hmm. At the same time, all the people who are now watching the coronation, even the dog on the sofa,
oh, the dog,
all start having their faces sucked into the TV.
Does that mean the dog was actually engaging in the coronation? Or was he? Was it just he was in the room? Like, have you got to be watching the TV, or do you have to be there?
What if you're like dissociating? What if you're facing the TV, like looking at it, but you're not actually paying attention?
That's
Does
what
that
I mean.
count?
I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. But I like the idea of the dog sat down with the family to watch the Queen. You know, kind of little crown on, a little scepter.
You want to see the corgis?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the Doctor finally reaches the wire and he grabs the little portable TV. Mm-hmm. And he says that killing Magpie means that the wire's overexerted itself. He shouldn't have killed poor old Magpie.
It tries to get the Doctor as well.
Yeah, a few times, tries to fry him.
And he says, rubber shoes.
Swear by him.
And the Doctor is canon now, was saved by his Converse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. He attaches the spool of wire he's been trailing to the little portable TV, but it kind of trips a fuse, and the machine that Tommy's supposed to be keeping an eye on stops working, and the wire starts kind of like laughing at the Doctor, and it's like, oh, has our little plan gone wrong? And the Doctor's like, but Tommy has some ingenuity. And he quickly starts changing the fuse, and he gets the machine working again. And when he does, the wire goes, no! And it gets like transferred into from the little sort of portable TV into like a
VHS.
Yeah, VHS. I was going to say VCR. No, that's the machine. A VHS, thank you. Mm-hmm. Into a VHS sort of cassette tape. That's what the Doctor was building with the parts from the shop. So that's it. Wire's defeated.
I don't know much about technology history.
Oh, well.
Screw you, dude.
Yeah, go on.
Were VHSs around this time? Is that what he picked up from?
Absolutely not. No VHSs in the 40s.
I didn't think that would be the case because they'd only just invented television.
Yes. The Doctor makes a point of it now.
Is that what he picked up from the TARDIS, the VHS?
Well, he built the VHS himself, so I assume just one of the parts he needed. Maybe the tape. I don't know.
That's what I mean, like the casing of the VHS with the tape.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, maybe.
Is that what he picked up just to be like, well, we'll put it on there?
Maybe, yeah. Don't know. So yeah, we're now back. The coronation seems to be carrying on as normal. Mm-hmm. Everyone who are having their face sucked off seem a bit like... There's a bit of, like a quick moment where they're like...
There? Yeah, and then they're like, yeah, the Queen.
Never mind. It's like when you when a guard in a video game sees you and like, what was that? And then you quickly get behind cover and they're like...
Must have been the wind.
Yeah. The Doctor says to Tommy that he invented the home video 30 years early. Betamax.
Bad.
I said to you, he keeps doing this. Like
he does.
A couple of episodes ago, he invented the banana daiquiri early.
He does. He's got a terrible thing with that.
Yeah. All of the wire's victims have now regained their faces and their minds. Don't know why. Again, don't know how this works.
No.
I'd understand it if the wire was consuming them, they'd be gone. But for some reason, when she did, she just kind of stored them somewhere. And then when she disappeared, they just got their faces back. Don't know why.
Well, she was stored on the VHS tape.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I don't know why that gave people their faces back.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, well, maybe she lost connection. Maybe that's what it was.
She's in airplane mode.
She was storing them in
the cloud.
In the cloud, in the atmosphere, and then she lost connection, so they all just went back. It was like, sorry, failed to upload.
Failed to upload. Gone back to
hard storage.
Yeah. Yeah, the Doctor reunites with Rose on Florizel Street, and the whole street is now throwing like an outdoor party to celebrate. There's very orange juice around, and Union flags everywhere. The Doctor explains that the wire is now trapped in the tape. She says, what are you going to do with it? He says, I wrote this down, he'll use his unrivaled knowledge of transtemporal extirpation methods to neutralize the residual electronic pattern. And she looks at him like, huh? And he's like, I'm going to tape over it. Yeah. He says, they meet back up with Tommy, and he says, like, as a little thank you gift for helping him save the world, he gives him the keys to his scooter. So, that's nice.
Yes, it is.
At this point, we see Mr. Connolly is being kicked out of the house by Rita. She
basically states that the house was her mother's.
Yeah, she said, this was never your house. It's in my mother's name. And I'm telling you now, get out.
Get out. And then she shuts the door in his face.
So he starts walking down the street with his bags, looking all sad. Tommy says, like, good riddance. He's, like, kind of glad to see him go. But Rose says, you know, he's your father, basically. Go to him. And, Tommy basically runs after him and takes his suitcase off him and walks with him down to the end of the street. I know that bit is quite controversial.
Well, I put that here, saying that Rose encouraging Tommy to talk to his abusive dad.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think it's meant to be a thing of Rose being like, Rose not having a father anymore, doesn't want him to sever ties with his own. I mean, he is still your dad at the end of the day, and I get that. But yeah, loads of people have brought this up saying, like, Rose is just enabling an abusive relationship.
Yeah. But then, not that it's okay, but again, it's it wouldn't have been good then. It definitely wouldn't be good now. But it's I think even the Doctor says, the world's moved on, and people like him are just the past. Doesn't he say something like that, or like something along those lines? And it's like, well, yeah, his dad's obviously very old-fashioned. Yeah. People care, and, well, people do care now, but it was, your reputation was huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then,
yeah.
Especially
as a military man.
Yeah, and communities were close as well. Yeah. Everybody knew everything about people.
Yeah.
So it's not good, but it's like, in a sense, like, you got to feel for the man a little bit, because he's literally just been made homeless.
Yeah, because he's like, I mean, the whole episode you think this guy's a douche.
Yeah, he is.
He's not evil.
No.
He's just got his priorities wrong. Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of see both sides.
Yeah. It's argument. Like, you can understand why, because Rose is like, look, just maybe this is the turning point.
Yeah, maybe this will be the wake-up call he needed.
And the fact that, Tommy was being the bigger man and came and, like, basically walked him down the street and held his briefcase for him. Yeah. Maybe that's kind of the respect that Eddie may not have had for his son, but now will. Yeah. And it's like, putting out an olive branch. I can see why it would have negative thoughts.
Let's say, I kind of get both sides. Yeah. I don't really have strong feelings about it either way.
Me neither.
But,
yeah.
But yeah, the episode ends with the Doctor and Rose toasting each other with their glasses of orange juice, and they're just kind of enjoying the street party. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm. I like the fact that the Doctor also eats cake, just grabs a cake off the table.
Yeah, he does that.
He does. I don't know whether this is a complete side tangent and just a question I'm asking you, less to do with Doctor Who, just in general. So I've spoken to my nan, like, over the years about stories in her past, and one story that she has told me about was the coronation.
Right.
And for me, what I like about the very end of this episode is because she lived in a street very similar to this. I mean, she lived in Cardiff. She still does. So, and I remember her telling me about the coronation. She said everybody brought, like, all their kitchen tables and all their chairs out. They'd listen. I mean, people didn't have TVs really then unless you were rich. Yeah. So it was listening to it on the radio. Yeah, yeah. And she said, everyone pulled the tables out into the middle of the road and the roads would shut off. Not that many cars were going around then.
Yeah. Again, only the rich really had cars. So, yeah.
And it was, she'd always told me about this, about how, you'd have all this mix match of people's furnitures and people were bringing food and sharing, and it was kind of like a community spirit and all the bunting. Yeah. And it's like, I visualised it as a child and even as an adult, but to see it like
brought to life,
yeah, especially in Cardiff. Well, I'm assuming it was filmed in Cardiff anyway. Probably. Yeah. But it's kind of like, I don't know. For me, it's quite.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be seen like
nice.
A story you've been told, I assume, as a kid.
I think she told me a couple of weeks ago as well. We're talking about it.
Anyway,
I can't remember why.
That's a story that's got a personal, like, maybe not personal significance to you, but like significance to your family. So it's something that's close to you. Yeah, and to see that brought to life.
Yeah,
is quite.
I think
it's not an experience you get to have very often.
No, my nan was young then.
Yeah.
I can't remember how old she would have been. Probably maybe around between the age of 8 and 12, maybe.
Yeah.
So it was a vivid memory for her.
Yeah.
And still is. But I don't know whether you ever had someone ever spoke to you about that.
Not so much for this time period. I had it more with like the 70s and the 80s. My parents, like, I've never really spoken to my grandparents so much about like what it was like in the 40s, but I've had a lot of conversations, like say with my dad about growing up in the 80s and the kind of cars that were out then, and like say now it's pretty normal for each household to have 2-3 cars maybe.
Yeah.
Where back then it was like if you had one, it was like, well, by the 80s, it was normally like 1 car per household. But I say back here in the 40s, not everybody had one.
No,
most people didn't. But as a general rule, Idiot Slanton, how are you feeling?
It's one of those things that I think you could just watch this episode and you don't have to think.
Yeah,
and you just watch it. And it's fine, and it's not enjoyable. It's watchable. You're entertained for a bit. However, I think if you actually look into the nitty gritty of it, if I was going to be genuinely critical about it, the story, and especially the kind of workings of
the logistics of how, all the sides
of the wire, and. It's a cool idea, but like you said, how are the faces taken into the TVs? How are they put back?
Like I'm of the mindset that at least so far, this is the worst episode of Series 2 so far. This is worse than New Earth, Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, Girl in the Fireplace, and the 2-parter we just watched.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is probably my least favourite episode in this series. I know you're going to disagree because we still have Love and Monsters and Fear Her to come. But I would honestly rather watch both of those than this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you like The Council, man, don't you? And you actually like Love and Monsters.
Yeah, I unironically like Love and Monsters.
Yikes.
Yeah. But this episode just doesn't have a lot.
I mean, looking at the recording time right now, I think it shows, because it's not very long. I think this is going to be one of our shorter episodes.
What are we looking at?
Currently, we're on just coming up to an hour.
Really? Really? Okay, yeah.
So I think it's that kind of thing of not a lot happens in this. And unless you, like I did on the last episode, go on a rant about stuff. There's not much really to discuss. It's fine. It's just completely middling, if not slightly less.
Yeah, there's just nothing to get super passionate about altogether.
No,
there's no,
really.
like with the Lazarus Experiment, you can go on a rant about how bad the CG is, do you know what I mean? Or with an episode you love, you can go on about how great the story is. But this is one of those episodes that's just so... there's not much to talk about. And I do find that kind of disappointing because, again, I know a lot of people... I think most people don't like it as much as we do, but when you compare this to The Unquiet Dead in Series 1, That's a much better story than this is.
Significantly so. And I know this may seem a bit harsh, but for me, this feels like a first draft.
I get that. No, I understand that.
Yeah,
that
I feel like it's a
good cool idea that's not expanded on in a way that feels like it had any thought put into it.
Yeah, I feel like if you truly sat down and went into it a little bit more, I think, because like if you, again, even not that you really had many televisions around at that point, that was huge. Do you know what I mean? The Queen was coronated, and people who did have TV were going to watch it. I mean, you had very few channels anyway, but do you mean it was a huge bit of media and news that everybody, was talking about. I feel like to get that nowadays is rare, so I can understand it's a good idea, especially to pick that event to link with, a TV and then using that to grab people.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but I think it could definitely have used polishing.
This might have even been more interesting as a book, as a novel, than it was as an episode.
Yeah, I guess. Hearing about how they take your face, not seeing how they take your face. Yeah, because
I think it would give you more room to expand on the small details that you wouldn't have time for in a 45-minute episode. And I think the whole theme of like technology bad, I don't know, just I guess translates a bit better to a novel than it does an episode of TV.
I don't even personally think that is the thing in this, because it's this era where it is. Do you mean we're in again like what, the 40s, 50s here? People weren't consuming that much media. So if you were on about nowadays, and
but obviously you have to put yourself in the perspective of when this episode aired.
I know, but even then, even if you look then, do you mean you look at like, well, when this episode would have aired,
2006.
I mean, I'm not that that was the big thing, but even if you looked at your Big Brothers or I know they already covered that, but I know your X Factor, or I'm sure there was ample TV shows around then. You could latch upon, or even horrific like news events that had been.
God, keep it light. Jesus.
Still, I was just saying, like there was. I don't think that for me that's the vibe this gives.
No, that's technology
is
like
bad.
I say, my main point is just like I said, I feel like this is a story that would have been more interesting if put into a novel format rather than episodes of the series.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Charles, do you know what time it is?
Trivia.
It's trivia time, baby. Tommy.
Yeah.
Tommy was initially intended to reflect some of Mark Gatiss' own experiences as a gay teenager.
Oh.
Yeah. Apparently the episode was going to tease that Tommy was kind of romantically interested in Rose, only to reveal in the end that he was actually into the Doctor. But Gatiss decided not to do that after seeing Mr. Captain Jack Harkness in Series 1, because he thought that was a way more modern and effective way to explore sexual orientation.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think also that would have been another dynamic between Eddie and his dad. Eddie and Tommy.
Yeah, true. Yeah, could have distracted from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been brutal.
Nicholas Hoult auditioned for the role of Tommy.
Did he?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
When you imagine Nicholas Hoult like in Skins, like as a young kind of like teen, I can imagine him in that.
I've never seen Skins.
I haven't
I've seen
watched
clips,
it properly either, but I assume you know what he looked like in that with his little mop top.
No?
I'll show you afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, he looks like he'd fit this role.
Fair.
Margaret John, who plays Grandma Connolly, she previously appeared in Fury from the Deep back in 1968, 38 years before this story. At the time, she held the record for the greatest span of time between guest appearances.
Fair.
No longer the case.
Who is?
I think now it's technically William Russell, because he played Ian in the very first episode in Unearthly Child, and obviously he showed up again in The Power of the Doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a fun thing. Working titles.
This is going to be interesting.
I've got 3. One is Mr. Sandman.
No.
No?
That doesn't make any sense.
Sonic Doom.
Oh, God, yeah.
And my personal favourite, the one-eyed monster.
Not the one-eyed monster. No.
Oh, no.
Why?
We love innuendos.
Not the one-eyed monster. That makes no sense.
We talked about this earlier, but this is one of the notes I made. The title of the episode was suggested by Gareth Roberts, who recalled the term being used by his father to refer to the television.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story was originally set in the late 50s, and it featured an alien who infects people via song. In this case, it was going to be Mr. Sandman. But it was eventually agreed that the idea of a living song didn't translate well to television, which I find funny because we now have the Devil's Chord.
We have the Devil's Chord and Sandman. We have Sleep No More.
Oh, let's not talk about that one. Consideration was given to incorporating the launch of Sputnik 1 into this episode.
Oh.
But Russell wanted a colourful, light-hearted adventure that would contrast sharply with the sombre mood of the impossible planet in the Satan pit.
Yeah.
So as a result, Gatiss himself proposed the coronation of Elizabeth II as a setting.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can imagine it'd be quite a heavy run.
Yeah. Especially after like the last two-parter we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine going from Cyberman 2-parter to Sputnik 1 to Impossible Planet Satan Pit to Love and Monsters?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
To fear her?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And Mark Gatiss based The Wire on Sylvia Peters, who had been one of the BBC's primary continuity announcers from 1947 to 1958. And that's all I got. There you go. Education time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably... it's probably the biggest... What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. You're going to need to give me something to help you out.
Not offence, but like the worst title we could give it, or the worst brush we could paint it with, being it's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
And that's probably quite
at best it's a bit dull.
Yeah.
At worst it's boring. It's whatever.
Yeah. But if you like it, please tell us why.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, and this applies to any episodes we cover in future. But if anyone like vehemently disagrees with anything that we say, or just kind of general thoughts about the episode, if anyone loves this episode or has big nostalgia for it,
or
let us know
if you took something from it that we've missed. Because let's be fair, I think we'd all like to like this show a little bit more sometimes. So, so if you could try and give us some information to make us like it more, then please go ahead.
Yeah, let us know why The Wire is actually a top 10 villain. Please.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear it.
Maybe she'll come back.
Yeah,
doubt it, but maybe.
But I guess that's it for this one. So we just want to thank you all very much for listening. We appreciate you as always. For anyone who's new here, you can hear the rest of our stuff over on YouTube by subscribing, or you can check us out on your podcast platform of choice. We are on YouTube Music, we are on Apple Podcasts, and we are on Spotify. So you can find us at any of those. But until then, we'll see you in the next episode, where we'll come face to face with the devil himself. But until then, I guess stay safe, stay away from Brain Rot TV.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.